Hello everyone, P11 here. Welcome back to Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney, Rise from the Ashes. We are on the final two parts, trial former, trial latter, blah blah blah. Today we're gonna finish Rise from the Ashes. Yeah. February 24th, 9:41 a.m. District Court, Defendant Lobby, number 2. So what do you think, Mr. Wright? I think the prosecution is as confused as we are. After all, the victim was murdered in 2 places at the same time, and a different suspect was arrested for each of the crime scenes. Lana. Good morning, Mr. Wright. I apologize for yesterday. I was indisposed. I hope they didn't hold you too long for questioning. We just finished, actually. I'm used to all-nighters, though. So, how'd it go? Is this Mr. Wright suspects? The police are clueless. I figured as much, so I struck a plea bargain. A plea bargain? What do you mean by that? We agreed that if I told them the truth behind this simultaneous murder, that they wouldn't see capital punishment. That's what I mean, Emma. Lana, stop making my job harder! But But Lana, don't tell me you... Much to my regret, I'm as much in the dark about this as they are. Miss Skye. We found trace evidence of a certain person in the police department's evidence room. What kind of trace evidence? Blood-stained fingerprints, to be exact. That's the trump card I have up my sleeve today. You do understand what this means, don't you? In order to defend my sister, you're going to accuse Mr. Marshall? We have to play the cards we're dealt. Isn't that right, Miss Skye? Do what you have to do, Mr. Wright. February 24th, 10 a.m. District Court, Courtroom Number 9.
Court is now in session for the trial of Miss Lana Skye.
The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is...
I'm afraid you'll have to clarify.
It takes 30 minutes by car to reach the police department from the prosecutor's office. Yet the victim, Bruce Goodman, was slain at both places at the same time.
But that's not physically possible, is it? What's more, I hear the victim from the evidence room just... disappeared.
Whew. Yes, and the body eventually reappeared in the trunk of Mr. Edgeworth's car. Wow, this is one messed up trial. One of my duties as prosecutor is to present impartial evidence. Today I will present evidence relating to the murder at the police department. In doing so, I believe the way in which we should proceed will reveal itself. Now that's what sets Mr. Edgeworth apart. Sounds so on top of things. Even though he doesn't know what's going on himself. And that's supposed to be an admirable trait?
Very well, let the trial resume. On the day of the crime, what exactly transpired at the police department? Mr. Edgeworth, you may call your first witness of the day to the stand.
For its first witness, the prosecution calls the suspect of the murder that occurred at the police department.
The suspect? You mean the so-called murderer?
Oh boy. Things are getting wild from the get-go. Will the witness please state his name and occupation? Yes, sir. I am Officer fucking shit. Yes, sir. I am Officer Mike Meekin, sir. My occupation is, That would be murderous, sir.
So you're telling us you're a professional killer?
Sir, it was me, sir. I'm the one who did it. I'll never kill anyone again, sir. You've got to believe me, sir.
Actually, what we'd like...
Sir, I'm what you would call part of the younger generation, sir. A person whose actions adults can't possibly comprehend.
Please, Mr. Edgeworth, sir. Help me, sir.
Officer Meekins. Yes, sir. Give us your report of the crime. Consider that in order. Yes, sir, as you wish. After all, I am part of a generation that must be told what to do, sir. Can't fault him for a lack of enthusiasm. Although it's not my normal duty, I was assigned to guard the evidence room that day. I spotted a suspicious man on the security screen and rushed into the room. I was only doing what I was trained to do, sir. I was suddenly attacked. I fought for my life, then I did it. After that, I passed out until another officer smacked me awake.
So the victim, Detective Goodman, attacked you?
Do unto others before they do unto you. That's the Meekins family motto, sir.
I see. Then you fainted and a colleague helped you regain consciousness.
Yes, sir. He knocked me upside the head, sir.
Very well, the defense may begin its cross-examination.
What I need here is more info to work with. Mr. Meekins, you work in the General Affairs Department, do you not? Yes, sir. I am in charge of hiring new recruits, sir. Yikes. Now there's a scary thought. Evidence transfer was taking place on the day of the crime, which meant many officers were given special tasks not ordinarily performed. I was in charge of guarding the Blue Badger, sir.
The Blue Badger?
Yes, sir. The lovely police mascot created by the chief of detectives, sir. I was to ensure it wasn't broken during the transfer process. That was my sole mission for the day, sir.
I see. Sounds like a very, important mission.
After the award ceremony finished that day, there were so many people running around that I relocated the Blue Badger to the evidence room.
Oh, so that's why you went to the evidence room.
Tell us, what did you see when you got there? In order to enter the evidence room, you need an ID card, am I correct? Precisely, sir. I have one right here around my neck. So then, your ID number should be listed on here, right? There it is. I found it. This is the one right here.
Could you please read us the number?
Yes, sir. It's 4989596. That's my number, sir. Okay, out of rapid curiosity. Okay, so... Huh? Well, that don't make a damn lick of sense. Oh, okay, I see. So he... Wait, how the fuck did he enter at the same goddamn time as Bruce did? At most... unless... You know what? I'll cross that bridge when I get there. I see. Huh? but the number 4989596 is shown as being used twice. Please explain, witness. It's no real mystery, sir. The first time is when I relocated the Blue Badger to the evidence room. And the second time is when I went to go get him after everything settled down. Okay.
I see. So it was during that second time when...
Yes, sir. That was when I spotted the man on the security screen. Okay. So you were attacked. Can you please tell us exactly what happened to you? It was a knife, sir. A knife.
Detective Goodman pulled a knife on you. What happened then?
Well, with me charging in on him like that, he looked as surprised as I was. You weren't exactly the kind of person someone would want to run into. That's when I reacted, sir. I swung my arms like an octopus, struggling to detain him. That's how I got this gash on my hand. Maybe if you just kept your cool, your hand wouldn't be... When I saw the blood trickling down my arm, I panicked. I grabbed the vampire's collar. What exactly do you mean when you say you did it? I know I don't look the type, but I'm really into kung fu films, sir. The man let his guard down for just an instant, so I snatched his knife from him. You took his knife? I spun him around and performed a disarming maneuver. I made sure to close my eyes like a man. See. He must have been desperate. The next thing I knew, his white coat was drenched in a sea of blood, and then the next thing I knew...
Yes?
He punched me right in my face, sir. About what time did you regain consciousness? No offense, sir, but how am I supposed to know that? I was unconscious. Oh, right. According to the report from the officer that woke up the witness, it was about 5:30. He hit me right on the head, too. I woke up crying tears of pain.
That's nice. I mean, it's nice that you recovered, that is.
When I came around, though, I made sure to finish my mission, sir. Your mission? Yes, sir. The Blue Badger, sir. I returned him to the entrance before things got out of hand. Well, we can all rest easy now.
I believe we now have a fairly accurate picture of what happened.
Yes, Your Honor. Only one thing remains unclear. Was the man this officer murdered really the victim? He's got a point.
Yes, Officer Meekins.
With regard to that, sir, take a look at this. It was sent to my jail cell. Chief Gant delivered it to me just this morning, sir. The chief delivered it?
What is that? A videotape?
Yes, sir. That's absolutely right, sir. A videotape, sir. It contains footage from the security camera in the evidence room. What? But I specifically asked if there was such a tape, and was told it had been mistakenly erased.
That's quite a mistake.
I just do what I'm told, sir. It's the only thing I'm really good at. Looks like communication with the police department is as good as ever.
Well then, let's have a look. Show us the video of you murdering the victim.
Oh, please stop using that word murder, sir. It scares me. A video of a real murder. Just what are we getting ourselves into? Uh-huh. Yeah? Uh-huh. Oh, hello there. Okay.
Well, I believe we're all thinking the same thing. How can we deal with these unsettling feelings stirred within us?
What the hell was that wriggling piece of plywood? Sir, that is the pride and joy of the entire Criminal Affairs Department, sir. It's the Blue Badgers, sir. Why am I not surprised this isn't going smoothly?
Yes, well, anyway. This tape seems to prove that the witness did indeed encounter, someone. In the evidence room, in some sort of,
Your Honor, instead of relying on clearly incomplete footage, the witness's testimony will suffice. Is that all right with you, Officer Meekins? Yes, sir. As you wish, sir. His face can't be clearly seen in the video, but there's no question that the other person was Detective Goodman, sir. I mean, he opened the locker which required Detective Goodman's fingerprints to do. The locker he opened is unquestionably Detective Goodman's locker, sir. So it must be him. No one else could have unlocked it.
what's this about a fingerprint?
Each detective has been given a locker equipped with a fingerprint-activated lock. These locks ensure that each locker can only be opened by the detective it belongs to.
Intriguing, that would mean. The victim at the crime scene would have had to been Detective Goodman. Very well, the defense may begin its cross-examination.
I don't know where this cross-examination will lead, but everything begins with contradictions. That's where I have to start. Okay. Tell me, were you able to get a good look at him? At the face of the man who attacked you with a knife? Sir, if you must label people as having seen or not seen the man's face, I believe I would be classified as the latter. The latter? Well, you were standing right in front of him, were you not?
More to the point, you were the person who fought him, aren't you?
Oh, yes, sir, but I didn't get a clear look at his face, sir. I'm not the kind of guy who looks directly at people when talking with them, you see. Yeah, that's a good trait for a police officer. Still, I'm sure it was him. I'd bet my badge on it. Well, currently your badge is on the line, dude. But you don't know that for sure, do you? You never actually saw Detective Goodman's face. Well, I suppose you might say that. That is, if you must label people as having seen or not seen it.
Since his face can't be identified in the video, only you can verify it.
Why is everyone looking at me? If I had to label your stares as disturbing or Meekins. Having been shown a questionable video at best, we are not in the best of moods. Now please be more certain when you testify. Yes, sir. You claim the man who brandished a knife on you was Bruce Goodman. Tell us why you are positive it was him. About these lockers, is there no other way to open them? No, sir. I myself tried all kinds of methods in the past. They only respond to registered fingerprints, sir. I wonder what kind of methods he tried. If the man opened the locker's lock, which only responds to its registered fingerprints, then he must be the person the locker was assigned to. Exactly my point, sir. And this too. How do you know that information? I've heard rumors, sir, from people in the know, sir. People in the know? The workers in the apartment cafeteria, sir, that keep me informed. They also listen to my romantic troubles, sir. For the record, the open locker did indeed belong to Detective Goodman. I verified this information through a more reliable source.
So the victim opened the locker with his own fingerprint.
However, the most important detail is not shown in this video, the man's face. Sir, if I may say something, sir.
Please do, after all, you are the one being examined.
I don't understand why the man's face is so important in this case, sir. I mean, it was his hand that opened the fingerprint lock, and it was his hand that tried to thrust his knife into my body, sir. My unsettled state can testify enough to this, sir.
Yes, you have a point. The footage doesn't lie.
That is, unless the defense can find a problem with it. Mr. Wright, let's check the court record again. Is there a problem with the security tape? Well, I mean, there has to fucking be. Now, and just in case I fuck up. But I think I know what it is. There is one thing in particular that seems rather strange.
Strange?
This contradiction leads to the possibility that the man may not have been Detective Goodman.
What? This video contains such a contradiction.
Interesting. Your Honor, I have a proposal.
Yes, Mr. Edgeworth.
I propose we have the defense point out to us this alleged contradiction in the video. He would want me to point it out.
Very well, proposal accepted. Let us further respect this piece of evidence. I will now play the security tape. Mr. Wright, please show us this contradiction you speak of.
I have to point out a problem in the video? This is the first time I've ever had to do that. You can do it, Mr. Wright. It's set up so you can fast forward, rewind, or pause the video. Just take a good look and be sure to point out the right thing. Please don't play it too many times. I can't stand watching this video. How did this guy ever become a police officer?
Now then, Mr. Wright, please enlighten us. Where is the contradiction that indicates the man may not be...
Fucking did not let me finish talking. The thing that's strange about this video has got to be this.
Yes, that is strange. Something certainly seems unnatural about that. What could it...
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Wright, but you seem to have forgotten the point of this exercise. What? The point? What you were looking for is the one thing and one thing only. Something that indicates the man may not be Detective Goodman. Oh, yeah. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. I got this. I thought it might have been a glove because the glove... Okay. I can do this. I believe in myself. Da-da-da. Oh, wait a minute, the light.
Take that!
Ah, has got to be Officer Meekins. Sir, do you mean me, sir? As I understand it, the locker apparatus works like this. When you grab the handle, a sensor reads your fingerprints. If it's a match, the light turns on and the lock is released. According to my very limited experience, that's the way I understand it, sir. If so, then something is seriously wrong with this picture. When the victim reaches for the handle to open the locker, let's rewind a little bit earlier. Here, notice the light?
What's this? It's already lit.
Precisely my point, Your Honor. The locker was already open before the victim grabbed the handle.
Order! Order! What's the meaning of this?
It's very simple, Your Honor. The locker wasn't locked on the day of the crime. But the locker locks are controlled by an electronic system. When a door is shut, a sensor is triggered, and the locker is automatically locked.
Oh, I know, and must have broken down. Of course, I'm not an expert in this.
That's not likely, Your Honor. The sensor would detect and report any malfunction.
Oh well, it just goes to show novices should keep their mouths shut. So then, Mr. Wright, do you have an explanation?
Me, Your Honor.
Yes, why wasn't the locker locked?
Me, Your Honor? Yes, well, you see, this isn't exactly my field. What do you think, Miss Scientific Investigator? Huh? Oh, maybe something like jammed a system sensor. Something jammed a sensor? Say, there's something else that seems out of place in this video. Yeah, I thought so too. There's got to be another clue somewhere in this footage.
Very well, let's inspect the video once more. The locker wasn't locked. Mr. Wright, please point out the cause for this.
Why the fuck does this gotta be my job? Please watch closely. This is the continuation of the part I showed you earlier. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Oh.
What's this? Something white fell out of the locker.
But sir, it's been my experience that things fall out when doors are opened. I often fall out and roll the great distances when I open... We can't be sure that item was completely inside the locker to begin with.
What do you mean?
The sensor triggers the lock when the door is shut. What if something was inserted, say, between the sensor and the door?
Inserted?
This white thing wasn't inside the locker. It was stuck between the door and the sensor. Oh, I understand now, sir. It's just like my toy. 2 out of 3 times it gets stuck in the door when I get out of my patrol vehicle, sir. Instead of the door closing,
But the object would have to be extremely thin to fit in the door.
Not only that, it would also have to block electrical currents. It would need to be an insulator.
Yes, an insulator, but at the crime scene...
There just might have been something that fits the description. But, sir, by insulator, you must... I think I finally get... People do not want him to talk. I think I finally figured this, got this figured out.
Very well. Will the defense please present the relevant evidence? What was... what was the...
Oh, I can do it. I believe myself. It would have been this. I found this near the locker. A thin rubber glove.
But we can't be sure that was in the victim's locker.
It has a tag that says SL9 is in it. The video seems to depict the victim opening the locker. But that isn't the case. The lit lamp attests to this. On the day of the crime, even I could have opened that locker. Is this not so, Officer Meekins? Sir, it would appear so, sir.
Order! 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 This witness stabbed in the evidence room was not Detective Goodman.
Do not be misled, Your Honor.
What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth?
The defense has merely demonstrated that possibility and nothing more. The victim in the video was indeed Bruce Goodman. The prosecution will offer one more testimony to prove this. What? Officer Meekins, please testify about this. Sir, me, sir. I'm not sure that you what you were referring to, sir. Oh, you mean that, sir? Of course, sir. Is this a joke?
Very well, begin your testimony.
There's one other thing that proves that man was Detective Goodman, sir. To enter the evidence room, one must use the ID card. When an ID card is used, there's a record of it. At the time of the crime, the detective had used his card.
An ID card record. I see.
I have the ID card record right here, Your Honor. The ID used at 5:14 is that of the victim.
Just before the crime. Yes, without a doubt, this is the victim's ID. However, one thing does strike me as unusual. Several hundred cases should have been due for a transferal. Why were there so few people using this room?
This particular evidence room is only used for storing certain special cases. Special cases. Extremely violent cases involving police staff. Just hearing that makes my hair stand on end. Me too, although it doesn't make much of a difference. There were only a few cases up for transferal there, and most were cleared up by noon.
Right, I see. Now let us move on to the cross-examination.
Okay. Is that card hanging from your neck one of these ID cards? Yes, sir. This card, is this card right next to my cuffs, sir. I kept it here so I won't ever forget it. But what if someone were to steal it from you, keeping it out in the open like that? Maybe I shouldn't wear it around my neck. Remember when I said 2 out of 3 times my tie gets stuck when I get out of my car? Well, the remaining time it's my ID card that gets stuck. Instead of the door closed, maybe I should just leave this one alone. At any rate, each police officer has only one ID card. Both the police department and the prosecutor's office can attest to this.
Please proceed with your testimony.
Let it be noted that this is the record the witness referred to.
Let me see. Yes, that would be it, Detective Goodman.
What's the matter?
According to this, Mr. Edgeworth, your name is on here.
So it is, Your Honor. Not that prosecutor again. Hey, maybe he's behind all this. Being a prosecutor, he could hide the evidence. Mommy, is that me in blue a murderer? Shh, don't stare at him. You've got the wrong color, kid.
It would seem the inquiry committee will want to speak with you again today.
I have nothing to be ashamed of regarding my actions or their consequences. For now, let us continue with the cross-examination. Poor Mr. Edgeworth. It must be so difficult for him. Yeah, so difficult for him. What about me? Earlier, I believe you testified that when you asked the man to show his ID card, he pulled a knife on you. Yes, sir. He didn't show me any ID card, sir. Don't you think that's odd? I mean, if he had his ID card, all he had to do was show it to you. There wouldn't be any reason to draw a knife. Maybe he just panicked? Everything stems from contradictions. Let's point them out. Mr. Wright, what do you think? I'm confused. What? The problem with this ID card testimony is far too obvious. It's not like Edgeworth to miss something like this. You're thinking too hard about it. Come on, let's show them what we've got. But then why was his ID card in the parking lot? Wait one moment, Officer Meekins. I'm not good at waiting, sir. I had the victim's ID card right here. I found it at the crime scene.
That makes sense.
When I say crime scene, I'm not referring to the evidence room at the police department. I mean the other crime scene. The underground parking lot at the prosecutor's office. Your Honor, I have one more piece of evidence to present. It's a very important clue regarding the victim's ID card.
Lost item report. It's only half completed.
But it shows that Detective Goodman had lost something on the day of the crime. Something important enough to fill out this report. That's me guess. You believe this something to be his ID card, right? I can't say for sure, but there is a high probability. On the day of the crime, Detective Goodman was not carrying his card.
Order, order. So now, what does this all mean?
It can only mean one thing. It doesn't even require much thought. The man Officer Meekins encountered in the evidence room was not Detective Goodman, but rather the man who stole his ID card.
Order, order, order. Does the prosecution have a response?
Well, do ya? I have only one thing to say to the defense. Bravo, Mr. Wright. Bravo? Allow me to summarize the defense's argument. At 5:15 p.m. on the day of the crime, the man in the evidence room Officer Meekins encountered was not Detective Goodman. There are two grounds to support this. First, the locker in the evidence room was already unlocked. Second, the victim lost his ID card. Am I correct so far, Mr. Wright? Yes. What is he up to? That being the case, we must inevitably arrive at a single conclusion. If the victim in this video is a fake, then the murder in the evidence room is also fake. In other words, the security camera does not show the instant of the murder. That is... well, I guess that's right. Something wrong, Mr. Wright? Only moments ago you seemed content to be pointing your finger around. This isn't going to end well. Well, well. It seems you finally realized exactly what you've gone to such lengths to prove.
Explain yourself, Mr. Edgeworth.
The defense has already done the explaining for me. The victim in this video is a fake, which means a murder did not take place at the police department at 5:15 on the day of the crime.
So
the real crime could only take place at one location. The underground parking lot at the prosecutor's office. The murderer being Miss Lana Skye, the defendant. The evidence is compelling. A trustworthy witness observed the moment the defendant used the murder weapon. God damn it, Phoenix. Why must we be good at our job? I knew that testimony was way too shabby. It was all a trap from the beginning.
the activity in the evidence room still leaves many questions unanswered. Who exactly was the victim Officer Meekins encountered? And where did this person disappear to? However, this trial's purpose is to examine only the murder of Detective Goodman.
Just so, Your Honor. Mr. Wright, you have to do something or else Lana... What do I do? How am I supposed to get myself out of this? I object. One moment, Your Honor. What now, Mr. Wright? Don't tell me you're objecting to what you've just proven. Of course not. But I almost walked right into the prosecution's trap. What are you talking about? This cross-examination has proven one thing and one thing only. The security video did not show the actual murder. Yeah? Uh-huh. Yeah? Yeah? Neat. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. However, it cannot be said that it is unrelated to the murder in the parking lot. Specifically, large amounts of blood traces were found in the evidence room. The defense demands further examination into the truth of the matter.
Mr. Edgeworth.
Yes, Your Honor.
If this court were to examine this further, other witnesses will be necessary. Is the prosecution prepared?
I'm sorry, Your Honor. The prosecution considered the incident at the police department to be unrelated. We have not prepared any other witnesses for this incident. This just might be my chance. Time to call a certain Texas Ranger to the stand. Mr. Wright, do you mean... Your Honor, the defense would like to request a specific witness.
Oh, whom do you have in mind?
Someone we have reason to believe knows the truth. The truth behind the activities that took place in the evidence room. The prosecution requests to hear this person's name before deciding whether or not to comply.
Very well then, Mr. Wright. This person whom you would have testify, what is his or her name?
I call Jake Marshall to the stand. Officer Jake Marshall. Why him? I can't let Edgeworth know everything just yet. He's in charge of the evidence room. I feel we should hear what he has to say. The prosecution agrees to the defense's request. Since he was responsible for guarding the room, we should hear his testimony. Fortunately, he works in the police department. We shouldn't need longer than 20 minutes to prepare.
Very well. The court will take a 30-minute recess while the witness is subpoenaed. Will the prosecution please prepare the witness during this time?
We will, Your Honor.
Court is now in recess.
There's no stopping you, is there, Mr. Wright? Huh? What do you mean? You called for Jake Marshall. It seems you figured everything out. I haven't figured anything out. Lana, you're the one who knows everything. Emma, you always know everything. Why don't you just tell us? Mr. Wright is trying his hardest to protect you. I don't recall ever asking for his protection. How can you be so cold? Don't you trust us? Don't you trust me? God damn it.
Hope I'm not interrupting anything, pals. Oh, guess I am. I'll come back later.
Wait, no, Gumshoe, don't go. Wait, Detective Gumshoe, what is it?
You got a lot of nerve, pal, making a detective run all around while on duty. And to top it off, you call me here. I've seen happier people at funerals.
Sorry, Detective.
You better be, pal. Hey. Hey, hey! 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 I didn't see you there, Chief Prosecutor Sky.
That's okay, so, have you brought what I asked?
Oh!
I'm not doing all of that.
You mean this, right?
My apologies, Detective. Due to my present circumstances, I was forced to use Mr. Wright's name when making my request. My name?
Never in a million years would I have thought it was you who asked me. Could I bother you to bring me the SL9 incident files? I'll need them by noon. Talk about crazy.
The SL9 incident? But Lana, that's... I thought Mr. Wright might need them, so I had them brought here. Here, you might do well to read them.
I can't believe you. The Chief Prosecutor were a witness in that case.
Miss Guy was a witness? The Joe Dark killings?
Take it from me, you don't want anything to do with serial murders.
I kind of want to read this. What is this about? Fucking check this shit. Incident number SL-9. Close. Perpetrator Joe Dark. Crime serial murder. Sentence death. Victims: Edward Jones, Edith Kirby, Jeb Bates, Jason Knight, Rachel Moss, Neil Marshall. Trial data: Head Prosecutor Miles Edgeworth. Witnesses: Lana Sky, Emma Sky. Investigation Task Force. Executive Investigators: Damon Gant, Lana Sky. Head Investigator: Bruce Goodman. Investigators: Jake Marshall and Angel Starr. Interesting.
Oh, what? Now that I've brought you your stuff, you're just gonna ignore me?
Emma? But why? Why is your name in here? What? My name's in there? I don't know. Unless... No, it couldn't be. Lana, this SL9 incident, is that... That's the classification number of number the police filed it under. 2 years ago, the rest of the world knew it as the Joe Dark killings. The Joe Dark... No, Lana. That's over with. No. Emma, wait. She ran away.
You know what? I just remembered. I gotta be somewhere. Sorry, pal, but I'm out of here.
No, Gumshoe, I need moral support here. Jake Marshall, Angel Starr, Damon Gant, Miles Edgeworth. Not to mention Lana and Emma. Everyone involved in this case is connected to those killings 2 years ago. This can't be just a coincidence. Knowing you, you just might be able to figure it out. Time to get back to the trial, Mr. Wright. Best of luck. I'd better take a good look at this file. Hot damn. Yep, I would like to save. And for the final day trial letter. Let's fucking do this.
Huh. The court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Skye.
Emma didn't come back. Allow me to call the next witness to the stand. The officer in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the crime. Hello, Marshal. Witness, please state your name and occupation.
Me, partner. Oh, I'm just a man, same as you, wandering the trails of civilization.
Occasionally helping the elderly cross intersections when needed. Yes, we get it.
Oh, I know. You're a patrolman.
As for my name, if you listen hard enough, you can hear the howling wind calling it out. To be exact, it's Jake Marshall, Your Honor. Howling wind? I've never heard Edgeworth described that way before. Now, Mr. Marshall, let me ask you something. You were in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day the crime took place. Is this correct?
According to the papers, partner. What do you mean? A desperado's soul is as boundless as the desert sands. No paper can sum it up. Maybe it's best we get on with this quickly. Please share with us your testimony of the day of the crime. In plain old English. My job was to keep a wary eye on that bone orchard. They say I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style. Besides, the room's protected by 2 security systems anyway. If I remember right, I was at a street side saloon at the time it went down. I'm just an innocent traveling man, so if you're out of ammo, it's time I hit the trail. I can't say I particularly care for your attitude.
I can't say I care for your beard,
but you don't see me complaining.
Wait a minute. What do you mean by 2 security systems?
I mean the security cameras and the ID card reader.
I reckon even a cowpoke like you knows about those. Yes, well, what about the fingerprint-activated locks in the evidence lockers?
Fingerprint-activated locks? What kind of newfangled doohickeys are those?
He's not being very helpful. He's not that good with machines, or with following orders.
Everyone's got their weaknesses, now don't they, Mr. Prosecutor? This one seems like trouble. Okay, Mr. Wright, he's all yours.
How exactly did you keep an eye on the evidence room?
I just made sure nothing moved in the security camera monitor. The room's so still. Even time dies in there. I was just a caretaker who interred the recordings.
You interred them?
Videos of nothing aren't that useful. When the time would come, I'd erase the tape.
If nothing unusual was recorded, tapes had to be erased every 6 hours. Each time I'd erased a tape, it felt like I was erasing a part of my life. This guy has a flair for the dramatic, but it isn't going to do him any good. So, in actuality, you don't physically enter the evidence room. But you made your rounds on the day of the crime, right? Ain't you heard a word I said, partner? I told you that ain't my style. I'm afraid I don't understand. No desperado I know lets rules get in his way. No desperados I know joined the police force.
So, Officer Marshall, on the day of the crime...
Just between you and me, I didn't set foot in the evidence room that day.
There was a rubber glove stuck in the victim's walker. Do you know anything about that?
Sorry, partner. Can't say I do. I haven't been in that crypt in weeks. How does this guy avoid being fired? You used to be a detective, so you've used the evidence room in the past, correct? Of course. Back in the day, my locker was a gold mine of evidence. And yet, you didn't know about the fingerprint locking mechanism. Sorry, partner. I ain't good with machines. I couldn't even tell you how a black works. That's quite, incredible. The sensors on the locker handles cannot be seen. It's well known that some detectives are unaware of their presence. Now that he mentions it, Detective Gumshoe said something like that too.
At any rate, it doesn't seem that this is relevant to the crime. Can you tell us what you were doing when the crime took place?
What were you doing in a place like that? I was eating spaghetti. Not even Angel's steak lunches can beat that parlor's vongole sepia pasta.
Do you mean to tell us you abandoned your police duties to eat some noodles?
Not all desperados eat tacos, partner.
That's not what I meant. I hope I hope this has at least taught you a lesson.
That's strange. This is usually where Edgeworth says, "Did you not want to raise this year?" Out of ammo, Officer Marshall. That's right, partner. Or as you'd call it, evidence. If you plan to pin me to this crime, then you'd better draw. Otherwise, you're just wasting my time. My still horse is waiting to carry me back west into the sunset.
One thing seems clear. Despite being responsible for guarding the evidence room, the witness doesn't appear to have seen anything.
Texans don't take orders from anyone. Everyone knows that. Apparently your superiors don't. Okay, I have a trump card up my sleeve, so I'd best keep my cool. Before I use it, though, I'd better up the ante. Okay. What do I have in my fucking evidence? Well, normally this would be the point when I ask my audience what to do, but I don't have an audience currently, so I'm on my own. So I will save, and it's time to attempt. That was wrong. Damn it. Aha! Officer Marshall, doesn't it strike you as odd? That is, you being called in to testify like this. After all, you weren't in the security room at the time of the crime. And yet you dragged me down here. Explain yourself, partner. It's quite simple. You left a very large trail behind at the scene. Or to be exact, a handprint. Listen real good, partner. Like I said, I'm the caretaker of that crypt. I pay my respects. That is, make my rounds about once a month. It's only natural my fingerprints would be in there. Only wish it were, officer. But you see, your fingerprints were covered in blood.
Witness, what's the meaning of this? Your bloodstained fingerprints were at the crime scene.
The blood was wiped away. However, a luminol test clearly revealed this. Well, Officer Marshall? It seems to me there ain't a person in this room with a head on his shoulders. I take it you have an explanation then, Officer Marshall. About the blood-stained fingerprints.
Very well, you may begin your testimony about your fingerprints, found at the scene of the crime.
Like I said, it's only natural for my fingerprints to be in that evidence room. One of them just happened to be at the same place as the blood-stained handprint. The murderer touched the locker where my fingerprint was by chance. The blood stain and the fingerprints are completely unrelated. Or didn't you know the murderer was wearing gloves? See, I had nothing to do with it. Well, how the fuck did you know?
The witness's explanation appears valid, although there's room for doubt.
Life wouldn't be fun without any doubt, partner.
The defense may now cross-examine the witness.
This guy's hiding something, I can feel it. Now's my chance to prove it. But Marshall, how'd you know about the glove if you don't fucking go in there? So then, what about the bloody handprint? Wasn't mine. It's no mystery.
Please explain.
My locker's covered with my fingerprints. It just so happened. The chances of that happening are 1,000,000 to 1. On the contrary, one could argue just the opposite. The chances of that not happening are 1,000,000 to 1. Get one thing straight, partner. You ain't gonna get no reward for me with a mere fingerprint. You wanna know why? Unrelated. They're as different as night and day. Kinda like cereal and cereal. One's got to do with breakfast, while the other's a type of murder.
He's right. Although seemingly alike, they're totally different.
I don't see what homonyms have to do with this. How do you know that? I may be a loner, but I still do my job. I keep up on the reports. There was a blood stain at the scene, thought to be left by the murderer. That's right. It was found on Detective Gumshoe's locker. However, no fingerprints were detected on that handprint. Oh yeah, I think we tried that too.
So that would mean the murderer wearing gloves happened to place their hand on top of Officer Marshall's fingerprint.
That's the only logical conclusion.
Okay, let's go out of this one. Got to find something. Oh god.
Something decisive to tie Officer Marshall to this crime. Well, what the fuck do I have in my inventory? Hmm. Shit. Well, it's time for operation. Just fucking present everything until you're right. Nope. Okay. That's not it. That's because you, how did you put it, pay your respects once a month. Yeah, that's right. That and one more thing. And that locker happens to be mine.
What do you mean?
I mean what I said. That's the locker I used when I was a detective. The locker I still use. All that's in theirs now, though, was a heap of broken dreams. I see. It'd be strange my prints weren't all over that locker. Apparently his fingerprint data was never removed from the locker's programming. Must have been using the fingerprint lock all this time without ever knowing it. Oh, I see. Now you're starting to get the picture, partner. The picture? This seal of blood. In the desert, it's just food for the buzzards. There's only one reality, and that's this. The security tape. So long as my trail isn't in there, you can't say otherwise.
This isn't getting us anywhere, Mr. Wright. Please consider carefully where you're going with this cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now then, continue your testimony, Officer Marshall.
Hold on a minute. What do you mean by that? You want to tie me to this crime, isn't that right, partner? If so, that video is the only direct evidence you have. But that video is next to useless. It's full of blind spots.
Blind spots?
Places you can't see. The camera's panning back and forth. The floor isn't shown. If someone was familiar with the camera's position, they could leave the room without getting caught on tape. We don't have time for your speculations, Mr. Wright.
Well, Mr. Wright, if you can show us evidence in this video that indicates Officer Marshall was present, please do so now.
Well, shite. Very well. Allow me to point out your mistake, Officer Marshall. Tread carefully, Mr. Wright, or you might wind up being the one making the mistake.
Now then, let's have another look at that video. Show us this incriminating evidence of the witness, Officer Jake Marshall.
There. How's that for evidence? Did I do it? If I'm gonna call it, he gets carried away sometimes. As well, this really isn't first. He's not a bad man, just a bit disillusioned. Of course, I'm not one to gun down unarmed boys. Okay.
Very well, let's get back to the cross-examination.
Okay. Okay, well that wasn't it. So we'll just do this. Yes. But the testimony, blah blah blah. I touched the locker where my fingerprints was by chance. Blood stain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. So then, what? So then, what about the bloody handprint? Was it mine? It's no mystery.
Please explain.
My locker's covered with my fingerprints. It just so happened. I'm very confused right now. Shit. What do you mean by that? You have blah 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 blah. Actually, I might have something here. Doesn't necessarily have to be incriminating, just... I mean, now I think about it, where the fuck did he go? Okay, that was not it. Okay, we'll get this eventually. Carefully, Mr. Wright, blah blah blah. Wait a minute. Ooh! I just realized it. I think I got it. Wait a minute. Where's the cloth? No. We got okay. It's fine. It's fine. Well, it's fine. I think I'm on the right track. Blah 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 blah. Boop 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 boop. There it is. Bringing our attention back to the security camera. It's a mistake I'm afraid you'll soon not forget, Officer Marshall. The days are short in Texas, and so are our tempers. Could you sum up what you have to say in 8 words or less? Very well. You can clearly be seen in this video. Exactly 8 words. Not bad, partner. The key lies in a certain locker shown in the video.
That locker with the white cloth sticking out. That was the witnesses, I believe.
Now then, let's rewind the video a bit.
Oh, the white cloth is gone. What's the meaning of this, Officer Marshall?
When the crime took place, the white cloth wasn't there. Then it suddenly appeared. There's only one explanation. Officer Marshall, you were in the evidence room at the time of the crime. What's more, you opened your locker when the camera was turned away.
Order! Order!
Hold your horses. Sorry, partner, but you got the wrong man. So what if my locker was opened? That doesn't mean I'm the one who opened it. The mother would needed to hide something, so we opened a lock and stuck it in. It's not my fault he happened to choose mine. Why is everyone staring at me like I'm a wanted man? This guy isn't just playing dumb. He really doesn't know. I hate to rain on your parade, but you're the only person who can open that particular locker. Oh yeah? I call you bluff. You say I opened that locker, now prove it. Alright. Fingerprint sensor? We talked about this earlier today. The lockers can only be opened by the detectives they belong to. What kind of crazy talk is this? Well, Detective Gumshoe did mention something about this.
In any case, the locks aren't that obvious. There are even some people on the force that don't know about the fingerprint locks.
So, Sheriff, what do you have to say in 8 words or less? I only got one word for you, partner. No. You done goofed, officer.
Order! 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 Witness, explain yourself!
If this is a joke, it's the worst I've ever heard. I assure you this is no joke, Officer Marshall. Now then, please tell us what you were doing in the evidence room at the time of the crime.
Ole, please answer the question.
What is he now, a bullfighter? That's alright, Officer Marshall. I believe we can figure the rest out from here.
We can?
Have a look at these floor plans. There was no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. Yet, Officer Meekins didn't see Officer Marshall.
If that's so, then where was the witness?
It seems Mr. Wright has an answer. That's right. The only possible conclusion.
Well then, let's hear it. Where was Officer Marshall at the time of the crime?
Why, that should have been obvious. He's right here. Officer Marshall was standing right here.
There, but that's where the victim, Detective Goodman, was.
Correct. Unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I believe the victim in the video is Officer Marshall's. It was you dressed up like Detective Goodman. But that's preposterous. Officer Meekins witnessed the detective at the crime scene. Once he saw the man's face, he'd know for sure. May I point out, though, that Officer Meekins did not know Detective Goodman. He also testified about the man's reaction when confronted. When I entered the evidence room, I asked him to show his card, sir. Yes, and how did Detective Goodman respond? He suddenly pulled a knife on me. Something about the officer's story puzzled me. If the man had had his ID card, why didn't he just show it?
Yes, that would have needed it. Oh, fuck. Yes, he would have needed it to enter the evidence room, so he must have been carrying it.
The answer is simple. He couldn't show it. As you can see, Detective Goodman's picture is on his ID card.
Oh, I get it.
If he showed that, his cover would have been blown. Officer Meekins would have realized the man wasn't Detective Goodman. Do you have anything to say to this, Officer Marshall? You've got quite an imagination, partner. We got a term for that. It's called circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence? He's still denying it. You're gonna have to do better than that to break a detective. Unless you have hard evidence proving I dressed up as the victim.
I can't say I particularly care for your uncooperative disposition.
I can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining.
Well, Mr. Wright, do you have any evidence proving beyond a shadow of a doubt?
Do I? Fucking do I? Maybe. Maybe.
That Officer Marshall's dressed... that Officer Marshall dressed up as the victim.
Well, who am I kidding? I don't have anything like that. I can see the fear in your eyes, partner. Seems you're the one who couldn't take the desert heat. This can't be happening. So obviously he's the one. What can I do? It looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. I'll pass on to you what someone told me when I was just starting out. When you've run into a wall with no place to go, return to the basics. The basics? For me, that would be what Mia used to tell me. Phoenix, start thinking outside of the box. I shouldn't look for proof that Officer Marshall was in disguise. But rather I should look for evidence that came about because he was in disguise. Why do you think this locker was open in the first place?
What do you mean?
There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open his locker at the time of the crime. Yet he did, despite the chance it might be discovered later as it has been. Which means he didn't originally plan to open his locker.
According to the defense's argument, Officer Jake Marshall dressed up as Detective Goodman at the time of the crime. Then after the crime was committed, he opened his own locker for some unknown reason.
The fact that a white cloth is sticking out of the locker seems to indicate that he opened it in order to put the cloth inside.
So, just what exactly is this piece of cloth?
Perhaps the video is the key to all our unanswered questions. I don't have any evidence, so this video is my only shot.
Very well, let's take yet another look at the security tape. After committing the crime, the witness opened the locker to put away the light cloth.
Gotta shave so I don't fuck up. Who am I kidding? I'm gonna fuck up anyway.
Please show us why the witness had to open his locker.
Boop 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 boop. Da 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 da. Wait a minute. For some reason, you disguised yourself as Detective Goodman and entered the evidence room, though I don't know to what end. Yet. However, something unexpected happened. Officer Meekins barged in on you. When asked to show your ID card, you pulled a knife on him. However, Officer Meekins panicked, and the white coat you were wearing was soiled with blood.
A bloody white coat?
You couldn't just walk out like that. So you hid the coat in your locker. Not bad, partner.
Now then, Officer Marshall, are you ready to tell us the truth?
Looks like I underestimated y'all. I hope you're happy now, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, if you were only half as persistent then as you are today, we all wouldn't have to be here now would we? Officer Marshall, tell the court what you did, all of it. All right. It seems the time has come. I had to do it that day. I couldn't just stand by and let it die. I stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out and managed to escape. I knew which areas wouldn't be caught on the camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15.
So the supposed victim was really you?
Well, there's one thing I still don't understand. Traces of a large quantity of blood were found on the floor on the evidence room. If no one was murdered, then how could that be? Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. My guess is he's the donor. It was way too much blood for such a small donation. Well, I have an idea of what might have happened, just no idea who okay, well I have an idea of who did it. I mean, there's only one other person in this fucking crime who could have done it. And I have an idea of how they did it. When you say it, you mean... Do you even have to ask, partner? The SL9 incident. 2 years have passed since that case was closed. It was going to completely end with the transfer that day. Not if I had anything to do with it. That incident's not over. But what did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room? When a case is closed, only that case's lead detective can look through the evidence. I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time. No matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner. That case is mine. But Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of that investigation. Why does he care so much about it? That day was my last chance. That's why I... Why did you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman? If I didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the evidence transferal, I'd be arrested for stealing evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere. So you did it to fool the security camera.
And the detective's ID card.
I stole that the morning of the incident. So that really was why Goodman started filling out that lost item report. I returned his ID card. I left it on the floor in the prosecutor's office parking lot. The ID card I found was left there by Officer Marshall. So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight. What do you mean, partner? I mean the fingerprint. Fingerprint-activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open the locker yourself. But he could because of a rubber glove that happened to get stuck in the door. That means Detective Goodman must have opened the locker before Officer Marshall. You pulled a knife on Officer Marshall's and tried to drive him off? Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only planned on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. I didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time.
Officer Meekins certainly is a 1 in a million type of person. Mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to be shown his ID.
I'll have to think a little more about his raise this year. When did Edgeworth get so much influence? Anyway, he threw himself at me and I ended up cutting him slightly. I'm sorry it had to turn out that way. With me knocking him out and everything. By the way, what happened to your knife? Oh, you mean this one? I don't know. I don't know what to say.
So you knocked Officer Meekins out and...
So you did your research beforehand. Those who go into the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. I didn't think it would make a difference, though. The security tape is erased every 6 hours. If all had gone as planned, no footage would have been left. However, you bloodied your coat in your struggle with Officer Meekins. If someone was in the security room when I came out, the jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed it in there. What was Officer Meekins doing during that time? What else? He was sleeping like a baby.
So what you're saying is, on that day...
but the blood found at the scene certainly indicates a crime took place. What, are you blind? The victim shown on that tape was me, and I'm not dead yet, partner. So, you stole the evidence from the locker? Actually, no I didn't. Why not? When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone.
What? Mr. Edgeworth, where's that evidence?
It's still missing, Your Honor. Detective Goodman's locker was already empty. Someone else stole the evidence. Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing? Fire away, partner. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer. Why did you do this? Stealing detective's ID, injuring a police officer. This is no small offense. Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. It can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary. Not that salary cuts are ever a valid solution. Like I said, this isn't your case. This one is mine. And I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied with.
The witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more.
I just can't forget the SL9 incident. You know why?
Objection!
Would it be this? Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much about the SL9 incident. Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner. I have the SL9 incident file here. The name, Marshall, is mentioned in here. In a list of murder victims. Neil Marshall. Are you related to this man? Neil Marshall? Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the name. 2 years ago, he received the same lousy prosecutor award you got.
What? A prosecutor?
He must be talking about the King of Prosecutors Award. Now I remember. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 incident before I did. That's right. He was killed. And the case fell into your hands.
But what's his relation to you?
He was my brother. He was investigating the murder with Damon Gant, the then deputy chief of police. The group of detectives I was part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence. That was all we needed. He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed. At least according to the public records.
What do you mean?
My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight. And that's it. That's your reason for your insane actions. There's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me.
Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime.
Maybe. That was the last day the SL9 incident case could be reopened. Not satisfied with its resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence. Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled. Yes, this mystery has finally been cleared up. No murder took place at the police department that day. Maybe. The things that happen by chance never cease to amaze. At exactly the same time as the murder at the prosecutor's office, this fake murder was going on at the police department. Chance? It's got to be more than just that.
So if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecutor's office parking lot was the real one.
which in turn means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye. But wait, a verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial. Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today. But there's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remained the mystery of the simultaneous murder at the police department. It seems to me, this boy's got the draw on you, partner. All of the mysteries at the police department have been resolved, no doubt about it. A sole murder took place at the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Skye. And the testimony of one Miss Angel Starr is completely incontestable. If you have a response, make it a single word or less. I rest my case.
It seems this trial has reached its conclusion. There's no room for doubt.
Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving the alleged murder at the police department. There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murder on the security camera's tape really was fake. But I didn't realize that would end up proving Lana guilty.
Now then, the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant.
Your Honor, wait. Emma, the defense has an objection, a scientific objection. Right?
What do you mean, right? Mr. Wright, are you this girl's guardian?
Your Honor? Oh, in a sense. Please, Your Honor. All I'm asking is for a minute of your time. Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please. I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3. I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out the SL9 incident and referred to the Joe Dark killings. Now that she mentions it, the names of both Sky's sisters were in that file. But that's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. So I knew his fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. That left only one thing. The other handprint. You mean the traces of blood found on Detective Gumshoe's locker?
But no fingerprints were found on it, right?
No, but I figured if I examined it scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. So, I ran over there and looked at it again. So did you find something? No. Huh? Sorry, I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all. Is that all? Please don't be mad. I'm just a high school student. And I'm just an attorney. But Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can't find something wrong with them... Please, Mr. Wright, you're a professional. If anyone can save Lana, it's you. Me? Oh boy.
Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright. With regard to the incident at the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain?
It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark. Looking at the floor plans, a handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this? Mr. Wright, I'm sorry I can't be of more use. But still, if you can't find anything wrong with that blood mark, Lana will be...
Please answer my question, Mr. Wright. We don't have all day.
Yes, Your Honor. If ever I've needed to concentrate, it's now. What could be wrong with that handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker? Could there be something I'm missing? I object! For two reasons. One, there's no fingerprint, and two, in the fucking security camera, there's the fucking blue badges in the way, so, you know. This handprint left at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction. The only thing that seems clear is you're grasping, Mr. Wright.
You've been staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them?
Yes, this is strange. Take a good look at these floor plans. Something is missing. Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn on there? Yes, something that, when drawn, will completely change the meaning of the blood mark.
Let us pray the defense isn't simply trying to buy time. Very well, Mr. Wright.
With all this evidence here, there's got to be something I can use.
The question is, which item could prove something is missing in the floor plans?
Yeah. West, even a blind man can hit with buckshot. That is, so long as he's facing the general direction. It seems Mr. Wright does not show which direction to face. Evidence there is a greater evidence. What are you talking about? The fucking security whatever. What is... Okay. I got this. This isn't simply blah 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 blah. Very well, blah 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 blah. So this time? What about that piece of plywood? I knew it was one of the two. The Blue Badger, mascot of the police force. Defender of truth, guardian of proof. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The Blue Badger is not here. So watch what happens when we put him in. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Well?
Well, what?
That's right. So long as the Blue Badger is dancing here, it would be impossible to place a handprint at this spot on the locker. What?
So that means, just exactly what does that mean?
It means it can't be done.
What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably found on that locker.
Don't look at me. I didn't put it there. Mr. Wright, think it through scientifically. Emma, on that afternoon, Officer Meekins was the one who brought the Blue Badger to the evidence room, right? After that, after he put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on that locker. So that must mean this blood mark was left there before the Blue Badger was brought in.
Just one moment. I will not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom.
It may sound far-fetched, Your Honor, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, in the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once but twice. But how? One time was captured on this tape taken by the security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is, the other time. Yeah? Uh-huh. Someone bled prior to the struggle shown on this tape. It had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered. That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim. The murder portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be a fake. However, that does not explain the blood mark found on the locker. Or the large pool of blood, don't forget that. So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proves when it occurred. When did the first incident occur?
To summarize, the defense claims that prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who was posing as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in that evidence room.
That's right. The blood mark on the locker proves this.
Very well, then tell us. When did this first incident occur? As Mr. Edgeworth said, proof must be presented.
Proof that shows when the murder took place. There's only one piece of evidence that can show that.
Now then, will the defense please present its evidence? What shows when the first crime took place?
Why, my dear judge, it would be this, I think? If the crime took place inside the evidence room, then the killer would have had to enter it. And in order to do so, an ID card would have been required.
An ID card? Oh, the ID card record.
Officer Meekins brought the Blue Badger panel into the evidence room at,
let's see here, 4:50 p.m. If the crime took place before that time, then it would be 4:40. Miles Edgeworth, just what have you done?
I never would have figured you had the nerve, boy. Drop the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure out it couldn't have been me. Nope, I ain't getting it.
I'm afraid I don't understand either.
It's clear that from the luminal test that blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood. That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer. I would have had just 10 minutes to murder the victim, to carry his body away and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible.
That would mean the crime must have taken place before Mr. Edgeworth entered the evidence room.
Let's look at the chart again. There's only one other card number remaining. 777-7777. Talk about a lucky number.
But wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room?
Since there's no record of his card being used beforehand, he must have entered along with the real murderer. That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with 777-7777.
Mr. Edgeworth, please look into this ASAP. Find out whose ID number is 7777777.
That's 17 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look up the owner of that ID card. At least at present. What? Explain yourself, son. The ID number 777-7777 belongs to someone with a rank of Captain or higher. Someone who is so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity. But that's ridiculous. Just how... I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There is one situation in which we can be granted such authority.
If an official charge filed against an executive is accepted.
An official charge? You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates. I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate it if you would keep your slander to yourself. Slander, is it? Okay. Let me ask a question. Yes? No, not to you. To her, the defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive. Lana? Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course we've looked up her ID number. And it's not 777-7777. Don't play me for a fool, partner. That's not what I want to ask. All I want to know is one thing about that incident.
The SL9 incident.
Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence? Hi, Lana. Do you need the witness to repeat his question, Chief Prosecutor? I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for that trial. At the time, occasionally we felt the powerlessness of the law. At least I did. Lana? I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law.
Defendant, just what are you saying?
I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look me, an investigator in that crime, in the eye and say that you did?
Chief Prosecutor, you didn't.
I don't have to, Officer Marshall. Why won't you answer him? Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to, in order for him to get the verdict he deserved. But Lana, even if it involved forging evidence. Jesus Christ, Lana. See? That's what I'm talking about. No. No.
Order! Order! Order!
Lana's remarks caused such a stir. The chaos in the courtroom could not be quelled. The conclusion of the trial would have to wait until the following day. To be continued. Is this fucking not done yet? I'm pretty close to it, so I'm gonna call it here. Like, comment, do whatever the fuck you do at the end of a stream, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.